we're losing a generation right now.
Yeah.
If people do not start talking about it and being open about it, you know, it's getting worse and worse, and we're losing, you know, at this thing, and we are in a real epidemic right now. Smoking crack.
What made you want to start what made you want to start a sober living IOP, and like what was your kind of background beforehand?
Well, I've done a lot of businesses for a long time, but even prior to that, like what made me want to start it? Well, I'm mostly known, anyone that knows me that's watching this, that what I'm probably the most known for is a project I did called Felony Fights. And it was, you know, worldwide distribution. It was underground fights, violence, all this other stuff. And I did also a lot of adult work. But, you know, when I ended up getting clean 14 years ago, and I did not have any idea that there was another way to live. I didn't know that there was a solution. I didn't know that like 12 steps and a community would change everything internally and externally in my life. I had no idea, and I didn't believe it. Stigma wise, I was not about to be called an addict. I wouldn't identify as an addict. I thought that, you know, I thought I knew what an addict was.
What was that for you? What did you think an addict was?
Oh, the grimy guy in the alley. How offensive can we be here?
Yeah, very.
Okay. In my mind, the addict is the guy sucking dick in the alley for crack. That's what I saw as an addict, or the homeless person pushing the cart. And you know, I thought, you know, I'm not an addict, you know. And it's funny, everyone else knew I was an addict but me. You know, most people don't go in and out of prisons all the time and abandon my daughter and just keep destroying my life and every relationship. But I just would not identify as an addict. I didn't think I was that. And I learned that I was an addict through that book, through reading the book and realizing, oh my gosh, they wrote a whole book for me.
Yeah.
You know, and then seeing that there was other people in this world that like think like me. I had no idea my entire life that anyone thinks like me. I never told anybody what I thought or how I felt, more importantly. And,
do you think that's because there was a stigma?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
How so?
I felt like if one, mental health or addiction or both, and sometimes I feel like they're intertwined, and you know, if I always felt if I told you what I was really thinking, oh my gosh, you would think I am crazy, or you would know I'm crazy, you know. And I didn't want to be judged. I didn't want to be judged, you know. And but I got clean, you know, and through a miracle, and I started helping addicts, you know, and before I even did sober living or anything treatment, I've helped addicts since I've been clean, and I found that like it makes me feel good. It makes me feel good to like help people instead of hurt people, because I was always like a tornado in anyone's life that I came into, and you know, and when I got clean, I got back into entertainment, and I've done a lot of cool big projects and stuff, and I would see, you know, these treatment centers and these sober livings, and I have a bad taste in my mouth about the treatment industry, to be honest. And I think that they use most of this treatment industry in the United States use our people like a commodity. And you know, they only care about your insurance policy and how much money they're going to make, and for them it behooves them for you to come back 8 times.
Definitely.
You know, because it's repeat business, and I've watched so many addicts die, and that's the downside is being in recovery. Is, you know, we lose a lot of people that we love, and I talked shit on the treatment industry since I've been clean, and my sponsor always says that if you're going to talk shit about something, either do something about it or shut the fuck up. And I'm not good at shutting the fuck up.
So you decided to change it.
Yeah, well, I started Stairway as this little passion project. I want to do one little sober living. I'm going to do it the way it worked for me. And I did the 3 things that addicts don't like.
Which is what?
Gender specific. Addicts don't want gender specific. You have to do steps. I believe an addict, if you're a real addict, you don't want to do steps. You don't believe in steps. You don't think they're going to work for you. And structure. Addicts do not like structure. Our lives are unmanageable, but yet we still want to manage it. We don't want anyone telling us what to do, but we need it.
Yeah.
And honestly, I thought I was going to have like maybe 4 clients, because at the time, it was like there was so many sober livings in this area, so many, and all of them. That's why I opened one. If I could have found one that I believed in, I would have never opened it. It's true, because I would hear about these people that would have a sober living, or I had friends even that had sober livings, and I thought, oh, they're good, and people would ask me, hey, do you know a good sober living? I'm like, yeah, send them there, and I'd find out they're either body brokering, letting them smoke weed, or letting them do drugs, and as long as that's paid, and I'm watching people die, and these families are sending their kids from across the United States thinking they're getting like help when they're not. When treatment was helping create a bigger problem. These kids would come in, and then they learn all these other ways of doing things, and they die.
Yeah.
And I started one. I thought there would only be 4 people, because I didn't think anyone, most addicts, when they have the option of like, oh, I can go to these co-ed places, do whatever I want, have no rules, I can use drugs, and just have a roof over my head. Why would they choose one where you've got a ton of structure? And
it might actually help and benefit them.
Mm-hmm. But that's the God piece, because now we're the largest in LA in what we do, and I don't do marketing. I don't do any of that. It's all been people calling. I've never asked one person to come in a stairway. Never.
They asked?
Everyone's asked to come.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's a beautiful thing, and we created this massive community, of people, and of people that want to live and that are happy. It's the best thing I've ever done in my entire life, I think, besides raising my daughter.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Over the time of like getting to know you, and even with my personal experience, I came out here with court cases, 3 DUIs, and
I love this shit.
You're extremely willing to kind of show up to court and kind of advocate for the client or whatever, whoever it is.
I love it. Yeah.
What is that about?
So one, I have been on the other side a lot of my life, and I'm the guy usually with the case going to go do time. And I had the guy that saved my life was this criminal attorney named Richard Pintel, and he was in the program, and he tricked me into the program. He got me off a huge case that I was on, and when I got out of jail on that case, he would have me, because I don't have any living family or anything, and he became like my father figure, and he was a phenomenal attorney, and he loved addicts, and he loved helping addicts, and he would have me going around with him, helping him get together all the paperwork and how we're going to approach it, how we're going to educate the courts and the DAs on addiction, on mental health, and instead of it being criminalized, and punished. And I'd watch him, and I would help him with it, and he ended up passing away quite a few years ago, and and it's a cool thing, because whenever any of our clients, anywhere in the United States, I'll fly out there with them for free, and I love doing it because I'm good at it. And knock on wood, I have never walked into court yet with somebody and not walked out with them.
Really?
Not once. And it's because of the I believe it's because if you have just one person that'll listen, whether it's a judge or the DA or something, and they'll understand that if you incarcerate, like an addict, whether they committed a crime or not, if they were in their addiction, like that addiction more than likely had them cause that crime.
Definitely, most definitely.
But the way our legal system looks at it is so different. It's a crime is a crime is a crime. It doesn't matter what the circumstances are. But yet, we have in our court, if you can prove, if a psychiatrist proves that you are criminally insane, they cannot put you in prison. But yet, when I am On drugs, I am beyond criminally insane. I am not the same person at all, but yet it holds no weight.
Yeah.
And I can tell you this, if you're an addict and you wake up in the morning and you have no drugs, it is just like breathing. You need the drugs and everything. You're willing to do anything that you never would have done before to get those drugs. And a lot of times that's crime. And that's a story of my life. And oddly, I got clean. I committed crimes my whole life. I got clean. I haven't committed a crime yet. Proof, right?
Yeah.
But it's like, and when you go into court, and it's like I'm so passionate about it because I think that there is a stigma, to addicts, or actually there's a stigma to criminals even, to what they deem to be criminals, when a lot of it, they were not in their right mind. They would not have, and I've proven it over and over, as I will take a hardened criminal, I will put them through our program. They will go through Stairway. They will transform their life, and they are not the same person that committed the crime. And that's what I explain to the courts. It's like, and I tell them, I say, if you incarcerate this person, the same person or worse is going to get out, and they will recommit the crime. It does not work. But if you will sentence them to my program, if they have to have a sentence, like I've had it where I've gotten cases dropped, and if it's a mandatory state sentence, I've had the courts where they sentence them to Stairway. And I tell them how they can do that. And so they sentence them to Stairway, and I tell them, if you sentence them to our program, not only will that person not be the same person that committed that crime, but they're also going to help others not do it. Because as you know, the only way that we stay sober or clean is by helping the next person. Right?
Exactly. I literally wouldn't be here if it weren't for paying it forward, giving it back, even doing this, like spreading the message. It's just like I have a purpose and a passion today when I didn't before I got clean. And I think it's really dope that you kind of stick your neck out there for whoever, any addict or alcoholic, and just like telling the court or the judge, the DA, like, hey, this is somebody struggling with addiction. It lies in her head, and I promise you, like, all they need to do is get clean. Definitely is a lot trickier to get clean, but like,
absolutely,
it works.
No, it's easy to get clean. It's hard to stay clean.
Yeah,
that's the game here. But it's true. It's when I'm talking in there, the thing is like, I think that the reason it's worked so well when I do it is because I believe it, because I know it to be true. From my own experience. Yeah. And I kind of know the justice system and how they're what they're looking for, because evidently I was in there a lot of my life. But it's ironic, because I think to myself a lot when I'm in court, every time actually. I think to myself, because I'm in there in a suit, and they like really respect me because I'm, normally if you have court advocacy, these centers that do it, they usually send a staff member, but I go as the owner, and that does carry weight. And the way that they respect what I'm saying, I always think to myself while I'm talking, I'm like, if they actually ran my record and they knew who I was, they'd be like, oh, hold on, maybe you should be back there. It blows my mind.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you about like institutionalization.
I know a little bit about that.
Clear, like it doesn't, we've said it doesn't benefit anybody to like just stay in jail, stay in prison, like. Or
here's a crazy one: stay in treatment.
Stay in treatment as well.
You know what people aren't realizing is there's a lot of talk about institutionalization, and you always think prison. But you know what I am seeing, and I see it with my own eyes, is these people are being institutionalized now with treatment centers.
Yeah.
They've been in treatment for 6 years. They're going on years, and they do 30 days. They get out for a week. They come back, and they do well while they're in treatment, but you let them out and they don't know what to do. And it's institutionalization.
It's like, how do we get out of that?
That's hard.
Like,
it's very hard.
I mean, at the end of the day, I feel like it's just a lack of application, or just like
Well, you know what it is it's once you create a comfort zone, whatever that is, and any of us humans, whatever that comfort zone is, it's hard to get out of our comfort zones, whatever that is, you know, whether it's, you know, even the unmanageability of our lives or addiction or being institutionalized, it's hard to do it. And then also it's scary because anything out of my comfort zone, I'm scared of. And I'm more comfortable with the misery because it's known than some hope that I'm being told that's unknown. The unknown is where the fear lies. I live in fear of the unknown as an addict, you know, and I think humans in general, you know.
Yeah, definitely. Like the fear of unknown and the fear of change scares us, and the fear of like I'm not in my comfortable little bubble scares us from progressing, and so does staying in the stigma. Like it's just it's a constant state of living in fear that we need to get out of. The fear of people's judgment or their opinions, and we normally only care about strangers' opinions.
That's the funniest thing.
Yeah.
I used to go through life and I'd be like, oh, I don't give a fuck what anyone thinks. I cared what everyone thought.
Yeah.
Everybody. It's like everyone's what my perceived opinion of what, and that's the craziest part. It's what I perceived their opinion was going to be.
Yes, you don't even really know it.
No, I'm powerless over what you think. Most of the time, I'm absolutely wrong on what I think you think. But I lived my whole life on what everyone thought, and it's strangers, and it's so insane to me now that like I cared, and when I really look at it, like I've been in a lot of very crazy, violent situations, very scary situations, and I may be in some fear, but I would run at them, no problem. But when it came to the risk of my feeling getting hurt, I'm scared to death. I'm not doing it. You know what I mean? It's crazy. Yeah. It's crazy.
That is.
But that's why we have all these stigmas and all of this stuff. Is a lot of people aren't willing to speak up and to come out, you know, because they're so afraid of what everyone's going to think and be judged. And that is such a problem in our society, you know, and there aren't enough people that are living out loud, that are just saying who they are and what they are and allowing it to be and letting it be what it's going to be. And in recovery, the only way that we stay clean, and this is why they say a lot of times that the whole world could use 12 steps, because what we learn to do in recovery is to get to know us and be the most me I can be for once in my life. Let's take off the masks. Let's take off all the masks and say, here I am. Here's my background. This is where I come from. This is who I am. This is everything. And it's me. And crazily enough, what we find in recovery, we come in thinking if I am that, I'm going to be judged by everyone. But it's quite the opposite. I'm accepted because of it. And I'm able to help those that also have been stigmatized, have been perceived judged, only because I'm living out loud. But if I didn't live out loud, then others couldn't see that and follow.
Exactly. This is our chance to do that. Talking about the hard to talk about things, the uncomfortable conversations.
That's right.
I wouldn't have been able to do this for 13 months ago in my addiction.
For sure.
No, I was in a bubble and like scared of anything in the world, and like now I'm ready to like express myself and use my voice and like my experience. You know?
Think about addiction and the stigmas with it. Is you have it's killing people. It's killing people. And like, I'll give one example. Even today, even if the family, the mom and dad, they finally accept that their child is an addict or whatever family member, and they accept this and they go to help them. What are they telling their friends at the country club usually? Where's the kid? Oh, they're on vacation. What if their child or husband or wife was hospitalized because they're a diabetic, would they say they're on vacation? No. They would say they're a diabetic.
Yeah.
They're getting help. And you know what? Someone would say, oh, wow, one of my family members is too.
Yeah.
And they'd be like, oh, what happened to you? And how did it work? And what was the process? The problem is everyone's sitting there trying to keep it all hidden and secret.
Yeah.
And I feel for you addicts. but I'm not going to let anyone know I am, my family member is, or anything like that, because, you know, that means whatever it is that each thinks it means, and it's killing people. If people would just live out loud about addiction, and they would say, yeah, my son struggles with addiction. Yeah, I have him in rehab right now. You know what happened? They'd be like, oh, my mother does.
Yeah.
How happened? Or even better, so my son struggled with addiction. He's in recovery. He has 2 years clean. I'm proud of him. And you know what happened? They'd be like, what? How'd you do it?
Yeah.
What happened?
Yeah, it's just a chain of spreading the message, and like there's hope, and like there's
right.
no judgment around it.
Yes, they wouldn't be hiding that they're kid and not knowing what to do.
Yeah.
You know, and they would say, here's what happened. They went to treatment. Then, more importantly, after treatment, they got into 12 steps, and they continue to be in recovery. And this is the solution, the medicine, just like a diabetic. If no one ever talked about insulin, there'd be a lot of dead people.
Yeah.
Right? But instead, people say, oh, yeah, this worked for me, insulin. What a crazy concept.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Now it's getting to the point where, like, not enough people are talking about addiction, what it looks like, to the point where now a lot of addicts are dying.
Yeah.
And
we're losing a generation right now.
Yeah.
If people do not start talking about it and being open about it, you know, it's getting worse and worse, and we're losing, you know, at this thing. And we are in a real epidemic right now with this. And, you know, I think that we're at a place, hopefully, I'm hoping that we're at a place, because now it's happening to your sons and daughters and your husbands and politicians and all these people. And I'm hoping that with enough, you know, that it's been enough, that we can just say, you know, that this is something that there is, and that, like me, I don't know if I was made an addict through trauma. I don't know if I was born an addict, and it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, I'm an addict. Mm-hmm. And it's like I needed to find my people. I needed to get help. I needed to know how to get help. And it's not enough talked about, you know, in our society. It's just not. You know, there's a lot talked about the death and opiates, but it's not enough. Isn't talked about like, my family member is an addict, and what do I do? And I'm an addict. More importantly, I'm an addict. And I think it is so important that if you're in recovery and you suffer from addiction, that you should live out loud. And I personally do. You know, there's, in our program of, you know, the programs that there are traditions about anonymity. Mm-hmm. And I'm not here to talk about an individual program, because we're not representatives of a program, and that's where the anonymity piece comes in. But I can talk about how I am in recovery in a 12-step program, and I am an addict, and I am very proud of the fact that I'm in recovery. And I think every single person, it's our responsibility to say there's a solution and that I'm an addict. And I know this is would be a very argued subject. Because,
okay, let's see.
Well, it would be, because a lot of, you know, with the traditions, it's about, like, a lot of people, they keep their anonymity about being in recovery or being an addict or an alcoholic, because they don't want employers to know. They don't want friends to know. They don't want society to know. We're past that.
You think?
We need to be past it. We're dying out here.
Yeah.
You know, my opinion, and this is my opinion, is I believe that if you are an addict or an alcoholic, and that if you have found a solution, it is your job to help with the stigma as an individual. I believe that. I believe that we're supposed to say to whoever, and I do, I live out loud. There's not anybody that I come across, and I'm not like talking, you know, hey, I'm an addict. Hey, did you know Michael, I'm an addict? No, but pretty much, if you've known me, if I'm doing business with you in any of my businesses, when I came into recovery, even in all the entertainment and all that, Snoop Dogg knows that I'm an addict in recovery.
Snoop Dogg?
I did track flicks with Snoop Dogg, yeah. I did a project with him a long time ago. But seriously, he does. And it's like, there's so many people that know I'm an addict in recovery, and it's just, there's no shame anymore. I had so much shame around that like, oh my gosh, I have to be in this 12-step program because I thought, because I'm weak. You know, I believe the stigmas, you know, and now it's not true. It takes so much strength and so much courage to do recovery and to consistently transform our lives and to change our lives and to do all the necessary work it takes internally for us just to be able to function in life, let alone be happy, joyous, and free. And I think that, like, it's my responsibility to just say who I am. And I can't count. I literally can't count how many people I've come across that I was having random conversations in random places, from restaurants to whatever, to even my social media. And in my social media, I don't, bang recovery and all this different stuff, but I'm very open about it. And I can't count how many people have said, oh, wow, I've been struggling too. What do I do? I can't count. I literally can't count. And it's because I live out loud, because it's not for me anything to be ashamed of. And I don't want the stigma to this, and I'm going to do my part to try to help with that. Yeah.
I'm definitely slowly at that point. I do vividly remember, like, not wanting to tell people. Say I'm like, I was smoking a cigarette on a sidewalk one time. She was like, oh, a lady walked by, like, oh, what are you guys here for? I'm like, oh. I didn't say it was like a meeting or anything. I was just like,
why is that? What was
the fear of the stigma?
But why at that point, that woman that you didn't know, what were you thinking when you said that? When you weren't just, like, honestly saying it? What was the fear?
Kind of just like not being accepted. Like, oh, and her walk away, not engage in a conversation. Just like, I didn't want to be dismissed because I was standing outside of a meeting.
Was any of it that you felt that maybe you were less than because you have to be at meetings and because you're not?
Definitely. Yeah. Like that, I was at a different place, and I feel a lot more acceptance within myself of, like, this is what I do to keep my recovery going. This is who I am, and I identify as an addict and an alcoholic, and I own it today. Like, I'm owning it, and there's a lot of growth, but it definitely wasn't always like this, and there's still such a long way to go.
Absolutely. And that was for me too. And it's ironic because I felt the same way, and it was more about, like, I was ashamed to be an addict, and I was ashamed that I have this disorder, and it's like I didn't choose it, just like I don't choose cancer. But now today I'm actually proud. I am proud that I'm an addict in recovery. I'm absolutely proud of it, and it took a lot of work to do that, and it came down to me working on myself, on what is it, why did I buy into all the stigmas? Why? Well, we are, our environment, has a lot to do with the way we think, the things that we hear in life, and the way people talk about things, it has a lot to do with our belief system and the growing in our belief system. And that's, what I heard is addicts, somehow, some way were not equal humans, that there's something wrong with them.
For a long time, it's been like, oh, this person is less than for whatever. It's like the color of your skin.
Correct.
The style of your hair. It's always been like that.
Correct.
Fucking thousands of years.
Correct.
Of doing that. So it's just like passed down. It's still there. Some things are better, but, like, now it's just passed off in, like, mental health and substance abuse.
Yeah. Especially the mental health piece too. It's like, there's so much shame in mental health, and it's sad, like we don't choose to have mental illness, and a lot of times, whether we're schizoaffective or bipolar or whatever it is that we suffer from, it's like we don't want to talk about it if we have that disorder. And
it's something you keep, like, hidden.
Yeah, because we feel like something's wrong with us. And there's nothing wrong with us. There's nothing wrong. It is. And it's just like nothing's wrong with me if I have diabetes. It doesn't make me less human. There's something that I have that I treat, and that's what it is, and if I'm an addict and I'm treating it with recovery, that's great, actually, because there's some of us that choose to there's some of us that aren't ready yet for the treatment of recovery and addiction, you know, and you know, I personally think a lot of it has to do with my own personal journey. Is I did so many things that I would have never done if I was not using drugs and alcohol, and I was so ashamed of it, and I looked at it, I had a moral defect, and I thought I was wrong and I was bad, and I was not that I did bad things, no, I'm a bad person. And there's where the shame piece comes in, right? And I felt that when I held on to that, you know, for so long, and it wasn't until recovery that it taught me. My sponsor actually told me, because I could not think of, at the end of my 4th step, you have to write on what my assets are. I could not think of one asset. I couldn't, when I was really honest.
Yeah.
Because I thought, you know what, if I'm really honest, I everything I've ever done was for some kind of angle or something. And he says to me, he goes, so all those things, could you do that today, right now? I'm like, I'm not even capable of doing that. He goes, because this is who you are. And that's proof that the addiction makes me do things that I never would have did. You know, it was my master, and I was enslaved to it, you know, and I didn't want to accept that, because I thought it was like not taking responsibility for the bad person I was, you know. But, you know, but that's all the stigma with it, you know, that I held on to.
Yeah. And I feel like what also generates more stigma is that addicts relapse.
Yeah.
Like, we fuck up. Like, sometimes it just... There's so much to recovering from addiction. We're not all going to do it perfectly. And...
So it's not surprising when an addict relapses. It's actually surprising when they stay clean. Because we're not supposed to, it seems.
Yeah.
It's such a self-destructive disease that is so hard to arrest and stay arrested. And I have 14 years clean right now. Literally, if I don't do the 5 things that I believe that I was taught to do consistently, I am susceptible to relapse. And I've watched friends with 30 years clean get loaded. And I remember it used to shock me when people have like 10 years. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Don't you know what to do now? And I'd watch them get loaded, and I couldn't believe it, because the things that they would tell me when I was new, they were like crazy. And I was like, don't you know this information?
Yeah.
But no, that master takes over as soon as we touch any drug or alcohol. The master takes over, and there's a shift in every way that we think. There's a total shift, and it controls us.
I don't believe we're the same person anymore once we put a drink or a drug.
It controls us.
Yeah.
No, the relapse piece, yeah, that is a stigma with addiction. Is a lot of family members or people, they'll put their family member in treatment, and you know, they think, oh, you know, okay, cool,
they're cured.
Yeah, you're cured. 30 days, right on. All right, you got the treatment. They took the cancer out.
Yeah,
and then they don't know about 12 steps, and they don't know about the treatment, the true treatment. That treatment, by the way, is only to get you clean, to get the drugs out of your system, and hopefully to introduce you to the 12 steps. The 12 steps are actually the solution. So anyone watching this, treatment is not going to save anybody. It's not. It helps us get it out of our system, and then what it does is it introduces us to the solution. Good treatment does that, you know. But yeah, it happens so much, and families, because families are very ignorant to addiction because of the stigma. So people aren't talking about it. They don't know. So they think, okay, you know, I heard about there's rehab, so I'm just going to send them to rehab, and they get out. And that's why most people that are in and out of treatment, and their families do not understand. They're telling their kids, why don't you just quit? You know how many times I heard that in my life? Why don't you just quit? If I knew, I would have. You know what I mean? Like, I used to have all these excuses, right? And then I got to the point where, like, I didn't even know. I was like, because we don't know what to do. That thing takes control of us. And if we don't have recovery in place, it will come back, and we will get loaded. We will get loaded. And do you think there's a choice? Like, Do you think I would have chose to abandon my daughter? No, but I did in my addiction. Like the addiction chose for me. And these family members or people or friends or society, they're like, wait a minute, you went to rehab, what are you doing? Why did you get loaded again, and why'd you mess up your life? And there's a judgment placed on it, and a judgment, and that's where the stigma comes from, is all the judgment from ignorance on the way this thing really works. And you can go through all these treatment centers you want. And I have clients right now that have been through literally over 30-something treatment centers. And I always tell them before, I don't ask them the question. I know the answer. I'll always say, so, you didn't do the steps, huh? And always, no.
Yeah.
100% of the time.
I really commend you for, I mean, I've seen it. Like, you continuously give addicts a chance. Like,
I love addicts.
They sometimes fuck you over. That's what we do. And
absolutely,
you let them stay. You give them a shot because you know what it's like. You've been through it. You know the power that addiction has over someone.
Because even when you're new in recovery, just because you got the drugs out of your system, we're still crazy. Sometimes crazier than when we were using. And I know that what we call them newcomers are new people that are in recovery. I know that a newcomer is going to be crazy. They're going to be self-sabotaging. And there's something in me as an addict that doesn't like me, that hates me, and doesn't think I deserve a life worth living. So what I do is I'm a porcupine, and I'm going to hurt anyone around me, and I'm not going to let you get close, and I'm going to get you to throw me out. To where I can say, I knew you didn't care.
Yes.
And the thing with me is I know this so well because that's a story of my life. You get too close to me, I'm going to hurt you, and then I'm going to blame you and know that you never loved me. You didn't care about me. The world doesn't care about me because I didn't care about me. Because I thought I was trash, that wasn't lovable, that I didn't think I was lovable. And what happened was I tried to push people away and do all these crazy things, and people saw, because they were the same kind of person, they wouldn't push me away.
They didn't give up.
No, they didn't give up. And the thing is like, I never get upset with newcomers acting like newcomers, and I don't ever take it personal. And there's been, I have a lot of funny stories of people that have done a lot of crazy stuff to me, at me, whatever, and later they love me, and I have a saying that I try to live my life by, and I would rather you hate me and live than love me and die. Exactly. And at the beginning, a lot of times someone's going to hate me because I'm going to tell them the truth, and I'm going to help structure their life, and I'm going to help them. And we automatically, as addicts at the beginning, we will try to sabotage anything that's good for us, and especially if someone's trying to show us love, we're going to sabotage that. That's why, like family members, if you have anybody watching out there, if you deal with an addict as a family member, you notice they usually hurt you the most, and that's how it goes. And it's because they feel that they're not lovable. And as soon as they start to feel loved, they're going to try to sabotage it. And I know that.
Exactly. Thank you, Michael, for joining me today. I really appreciate everything we talked about. Talking about the stigma and how we need to kind of like send out more information and resources on like what addiction is, what it looks like, and like it's not the most simplest thing to understand, especially from an outside perspective of someone not dealing with it. So I appreciate you.
Of course.
Thank you for coming on today.
I am so stoked and honored that you guys invited me, and I look forward to seeing this thing blow up.
Thank you.